This is the violent gentleman, Tommy Jackson. You're watching CCP Podcasting. Stay inevitable.
What is happening, friends of CCP Podcasting? Welcome back to Beyond the Bell. I am Chris Page. That handsome devil on the other side of the screen, that's John Cable. Bro, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well as usual. Got a lot of stuff going on, but here we are again today to enjoy a passion of ours in wrestling.
Absolutely. This thing's turning into a runaway train, if I had to quote Soul Asylum. And I don't want to come back because professional wrestling, we've said it many times before, it has a way of just bringing people together from all over the world, and we are finding that out each and every week. It is truly a phenomenal journey thus far that we've been on, and today I'm super stoked. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really looking forward to picking the brain a little bit of our guest that's going to be coming in. You might have seen her on Reality of Wrestling. You might have seen her at Premier Wrestling. All this down in the great state of Texas, and several other federations along the way that we're going to be talking about today. We've got Emily Taylor. Miss Emily, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming in and doing the show. I think I told you previously, I don't mind saying it on the air. If people hate it, and send me their hate tweets at Fireside Page is right below me. We have been struggling to find female talents to come on the show, and this to me is a very crucial episode of this podcast because you're our first. And I couldn't be.
I'm the first. Oh, wow.
I couldn't be happier because not only are you our first female guest, you're our first ring announcer. And, we have we've talked to, obviously in-ring talent. We have talked to some producers. We've talked to a wide variety of people in the industry. We haven't gotten a ring announcer yet. And this is going to be breaking ground on several levels, and I am pumped for it. How are you doing?
I'm good. I didn't know I was the first ring announcer either, so no pressure. But I'm excited.
None at all.
I'm excited. I love ring announcing. I have so much fun. I enjoy being able to be a part of the show, and helping make everybody sound really cool. I say, like, one time in like one of the roster chats, someone was like, "What's everybody doing this weekend?" Because there was a show. And they were joking, and I was like, I'm going to make all my wrestler friends sound cool.
There you go. I mean,
that was exactly the job description.
There is a lot to unpack with that aspect of the industry for sure, and we're going to dive in. Before we get too deep into the party, let me get the softball stuff out of the way, just so we know where you're coming from and when did you fall in love with professional wrestling, and what took you down the road to ring announce?
So I mean, I watched wrestling on and off as a kid growing up. I watched it at one point. I watched it during like Chris Benoit and all of it. And I was watching at that time whenever everything happened. And then I stopped watching for a little while, started watching again, just kind of back and forth. But yeah, my favorite wrestlers, like, that really made me start liking it is, John Cena, obviously. Everyone loves John Cena.
I can't see
him. Yeah,
I've never seen him.
I can't see him.
I've never seen him.
I've seen him in a couple of movies, I think, but I don't know about in the ring. But yeah. And then, grew up I think anybody at one point wanted to be a wrestler or something like that. I don't know. And then I really started watching most recently, I think right before the Hardy Boys came back to WWE, I think. Mm-hmm. I think that's whenever I started watching it the most recently.
Right.
But yeah, and I started with getting into indie wrestling whenever I had a friend that was starting training down at Reality of Wrestling, and then started, whenever after COVID happened, there was one of the companies was wanting to get a female ring announcer and a female commentator, and I was like, well, I've never done those, but that sounds, I could try that. I'm down to try, and that's how it happened. And now here I am.
That's such a kind of it just kind of fell in your lap a little bit. And,
yeah, I was down to try it, and they were like, and he was like, yeah, I'm down to give my friends a chance, and now here I am. There's been 2 promotions that they've ran that have ended, and he just started a new one, All Fury Pro Wrestling, and they've only had 1 show, but yeah, that's how it started.
I mean,
it's very indicative of the indie scene.
Mm-hmm.
I wish it was.
It sounds like every other indie place I've ever seen. Like especially for the support role characters. Like, a lot of people don't understand how important support roles are, but they're absolutely fundamental to the basis of the business. And most of them are filled in by people that are just around the talent. And that seems to happen like everywhere.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
And those are important. Those are important roles too. Like the ring announcer, the commentators, the refs. Like, they're all so important in making a show run smoothly.
And that's exactly a piece of why we started doing this podcast, is because it's more than just in-ring work. Like, that is definitely a big piece of it. But everybody's role is critical and crucial, all the way down to ring crew and setting up the ring correctly. Like, I mean, everything is pivotal, and it always keeps the wheels moving. And when you say you kind of took that chance, or it fell in your lap rather, was that with Reality of Wrestling, or was that with the owner of AFPW?
So that was originally with a company called Renegade Wrestling Revolution. They were relaunching after COVID, just like every other company was. And they only ran a couple of shows, and then they changed it. They were changing gears to an all-women's promotion, and that just wasn't really quite the move, just because that's such a niche, area. And so they ran a couple of shows, and then and there were 2 promoters that did that, and then one of them decided that he was going to start a new promotion here sometime last year, and then he finally had his first show in January for All Fury.
Got you. You and John have something in common when it comes to being on the table, if you will, or being the voice, a piece of the voice, rather. John, let me throw it over to you real quick, because I know that you've probably got 1,000,001 questions running through your head about...
so many.
Go ahead. The floor is yours, sir.
So when you decided to take the opportunity that was presented, and you decided, okay, I'm going to do this, your first night, mic in hand, how'd that go for you?
Oh my gosh, it was a mess. I had never gotten in a wrestling ring before, and Jacob King is the owner of All Fury Pro, and he was doing commentary that night, and he was filming, and he filmed it when me getting in the ring, and I tripped a little bit. So there is a video out there somewhere. I'm sure Jacob King would love to give it to everybody. But it's out there. And then, and he wrote all my cards down for when everybody was going to come out, because he ring announced a few times, but he likes commentary more. And he wrote out the cards for me, and he was like, "This is the order to come out." He didn't tell me someone switched, so I didn't announce the first person correctly. It was a mess.
Yep. That sounds like a first night. It's funny you say that you tripped getting in the ring, because there was the second promotion that I ever worked for. I took a one-night contract to go work as a ring announcer and a table commentator at the second company. And I wanted to be kind of funny, and we were doing a rookie communications major gimmick for the character. And on my way out the curtain, I had this big smile on my face until I saw the crowd, and then I was like, oh yeah. And then I was just kind of wandered to the ring, and I also tripped through the ropes going into the ring.
Well, I'm
glad I'm not alone.
Well, I think I can trump both of you on this. My first time through the curtain, I was a talent, as John's aware, and we're going back 22 years.
A while.
Dates myself.
A while.
I tripped over the step coming up to the ring.
Nice.
Oh.
I didn't even make it to the apron my first night.
So yeah, you're not alone at all. If you have not tripped getting into a ring, you have not got into a ring properly yet.
In my head, how can I be a heel if I can't even get in the fucking ring correctly? You know, like I don't know. It's interesting to see that we, and I did, John, this is the first time I've heard your story. I didn't know that you had tripped going in your first time either, but to know that was a thing between the three of us, and I'm sure it happens to everybody, right? Like you go out in front of that crowd for the first time, it's like, it could be 25 people, it could be 200 people, it could be 1,000. It doesn't matter. They feel like 19,000.
Yeah, I was used to the 20, 30 crowds, and when I walked out that night for the second company, there were like 200 people in that building, and I was like, oh, this is way bigger than I'm used to. All right, well, here we go, and it was off to the races. It was fun though. So first night goes epically, absolutely does. How do you transition from that in your head to like continue doing it? What's the mental gymnastics that keep you coming back to show up?
Well, I just luckily like at the time, like there was I had so many people, and I still do, like so many people that were like, hey, you did really, really good. And I'm one of I know that like it's a big thing to like watch the shows back. At least I know it is a lot for wrestlers and in-ring talent. I don't watch a lot of the shows back that I'm on because like I'm one of those people, I say something, and when I say it, I'm like, that sounded stupid. So like I'm one of those people, I remember the things that I do, and I'm like, I don't want to see me do that again. That was dumb. So a lot of times I just kind of like make notes in my head of like, okay, I don't want to do that way, or I need to make sure I say that right.
That phrase is completely out. Never saying that again.
Yeah, and like I keep a list in my phone of everybody that I've announced, so that has helped me a lot with like, so at a show, I'm not having to go around and ask all 20, 30 people like how they're announced, because I have a list. I'll just kind of touch base with them and be like, hey, is this still, like, has anything changed or anything like that? But yeah, and I just have a really good support system of people that are like, oh, you did great. So to help me not want to, because after the first night, I was so embarrassed. I was at the end of the show, I was like, am I fired? Are y'all gonna fire me? Did I do a bad job? And they were like, no, you did great. You did fine. I was like,
It's funny because like in-ring talent, if you make a mistake, someone can get hurt. On mic talent, if you make a mistake, it's gonna be a funny soundbite and a meme on the internet. I don't know which one hurts worse, but I know that there's a very large difference in making a mistake on the table and making one in between the ropes. And I think it's kind of freeing for that position to kind of not have to worry about, oh, if I screw this up, I'm going to break my opponent's leg.
Yeah, I don't instead worry about somebody.
Right, exactly. So what kind of process did you go through to get your catalog together? Did you have different things that you did? Did you go through like a card box first, or did you just go straight to your phone? Because before, for me, there weren't smartphones. Like I think I still had a pager when I started, and I had a card box.
We were playing Snake on our phone
Yeah, my little Nokia, my candy bar had Snake on it, maybe. But like, what was that like building your catalog, and what kind of tools do you use to keep your things together?
I just use like Google Notes on my phone, and I just have a list of I at one point when I started like just keeping it in my phone, I would still write out cards, and I still do. I don't take my phone into the ring when I announce because I've done it one
Smart.
time. I did it one time. Like one of my main things was I didn't want to accidentally. I don't want to take it because I don't want to erase something that I need to say. And I did that one time. Like, luckily it was for like the next like match, and I realized what it was really quick. And I went back there and I was like, "Hey, Chris," I was like, "What is it?" Because I'd forgotten because I was like, I accidentally erased it. I just kind of I do keep my note cards, and I still write my note cards out for the shows. But I mainly just keep it on one giant. It's a very long list because I have it like I have women, and then I have men, and then I have tag teams. And I just I put it in alphabetical order, or I tried to, so that I can just like scroll on there and.
People don't realize how long those lists can get until you look at somebody's card box and it's got 300 cards stuffed in it.
Yeah, and I don't think I've taken anybody off of it. Like I still have people that I announced that are like signed now.
Good. That's a historical notebook for you. That's an achievement list. I like the fact that you keep them in line like that. I think that's great.
If anybody asked where was Emily and who was she announcing, you have that. It's at the touch of your hands, at your fingers.
Yeah, I have a list of like the shows that I've announced too, and I think it's so funny because I've been announcing with Reality Wrestling for a little over a year, like for their like main shows. But I even showed the producer the other day because I was talking to him, and I was like, I had no business announcing this show when I announced. It was like my fourth or fifth show, and it was like one of the women's shows because they were running a couple all women shows every couple months. And I was like, y'all, you told me to do this show, and I should not have done that show. Like I had no business doing that show at that time.
You're like, I had not chalked up any dues, and this should have gone to someone far more veteran than I.
Yeah. It was like my fourth or fifth show. And I mean, it went okay, but I mean, like I hadn't really like, really found, my way of like doing things and saying things and stuff like that. So
how did that come about?
I'm sorry, John. You mentioned Reality of Wrestling. I want to shoot there real quick. How did you get hooked up with Booker T's Fed? How did that opportunity happen itself?
So for like the first show that I did, they have a ring announcer. His name is Chris Russo. He used to work for the WWE. He's amazing. Has so much knowledge about wrestling and just producing and everything like that. He, I guess, wasn't going to be there something, and so that show they just kind of because they know because like my friend worked with him at the time, and they were like, hey. Are you going to be in town? Can you do the show? And so like that's how I did the first show. And then doing it every month though, that last January was really funny. I was talking to a talent at a different show, and I was like, "Oh, I'll be at the show, like the Reality Wrestling show." I was like, "I'm not working it, but like I'm going to be there." And they were like, "You should work it." And I was like, "I'm not just going to tell them I'm going to work their show. What do you mean?" And I was like, "I'll tell them that you said that I should work the show." And I messaged the producer and was like, hey, so-and-so said I should work the show, ha, ha, ha. And he was like, no, you should. And I was like, what?
Done, I'll be there.
And I was like, okay. So that's how I wound up doing that one. So now I announced, me and Chris Russo announced, we kind of split the duties in that regard. And he also does like backstage segments. He produces a lot of the backstage segments. So he wears a bunch of other hats during the day of the show. So I kind of get all of the announcing stuff together for us while he's doing other things.
It does seem like anybody with a microphone in their hand gets to wear a bunch of different multicolored hats.
That's such a to be so young in the industry, that is, and to be in Houston, and I know that Texas is deep rooted in professional wrestling, all the way back to the territory days. And now with the independent scene, John and I, we made no bones about it. The indie scene is where it's at right now, and it's almost turning back into the territory system.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent.
With everyone working together. And for you to be so young in your career and to have the opportunity to sit under that learning tree with Reality of Wrestling, with your counterpart, like, that is a wealth of knowledge. And it's almost like I guess I should probably get to my question. My question is like, is it almost surreal to think about that to a degree? Like, I'm a handful of years in the industry, and here I am. Like, let's be fair. Reality of Wrestling is producing stars of all caliber and going to every federation, and that's one thing that I like about Reality of Wrestling. And I, again, have no ties to it whatsoever. It's good business on Booker T's end to keep avenues of channels of communication open with multiple federations. And for you to be there right now in this era of independent wrestling, like, is it a surreal feeling?
Yeah, it definitely is. To just know people that have come from there, you know, whenever they their first time wrestling or within their first year or so, and to see them, like Roxanne Perez, for instance, because I'm going to mention her because she just came back and did a match in January. I remember whenever she would take that Greyhound bus from Laredo, 7, 8, however many hours it is, to Houston to wrestle. And then to go from that to being the youngest Diamonds champion at Reality Wrestling, and now she's a former NXT Women's Champion. Like, that's crazy.
She's tearing it up.
And all the other people that have come from there and have done great things, and just the ties that Booker T has, like you said, the Last Stand Rumble that we just had, the Boogeyman was there and Maven was there. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I was like, what was your moment where you're like early on and you're just like, wait, and you look around and you're just like, where am I at right now? When did it click for you and you're like, oh no, like, I'm involved?
I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure I understand the question, but one of the biggest things, like, I announced Roxanne Perez whenever she had the Ring of Honor title. Like, that was one thing I was like, whoa, like, that's amazing.
Yeah,
you know?
Just like that. That's what my question's about. It's like, what was your moment when you're like, wait a minute, I'm actually involved in something way bigger than me. Like, this is real, and here I am.
Yeah. Announcing her whenever she had the Ring of Honor title, and then I kind of had that moment again in February. I announced Duke Hudson out whenever he came to Reality Wrestling, and I didn't even know that was like one of the things I like bucket list wanted to check off until like I had the opportunity to do it.
I didn't even know that was going on the list, but here, let me write it in and check it off.
Yeah.
How did you get linked in with PWF? I mean, because here again, this is what I find is very impressive. You're still very young to the industry, and you have several ties down to not just one federation or indie. You've got ties to several, and it only does more for you, right? To get your name out there. How did you hook up with Premier?
So I think that's just, it's because the way that it works, it is down here in Houston. There's so many promotions down here. Like, you can work every weekend and not even leave the city, probably, like, if you really wanted to. That happened. The first show that I did for them was, their announcer wasn't going to be there, and the promoter that worked for RWR, he did commentary with them and like helped promote their shows and stuff like that. And he was like, let me see if Emily can come, because I know that she's in town. and I was at work, and he was like, "Hey, can you get here? The show starts at like 7 or 7:30, whatever it was." And I was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be like right before bell, but I mean, yeah, I guess." And
no prep time, no cards today.
I had about, I think I got there like an hour before the show started. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And that's how it happened, and then I just became their permanent ring announcer.
Go ahead, John.
So when we were talking earlier about your development, did you ever come up with like a gimmick or a character, or did you ever put any thought into that? Have you been involved in stories or anything?
I have a couple of times, more just the heels kind of picking on the ring announcer to get heat. One of them, like at one point, AWOL, he would always come out at PWS and he would yell at me to like say his name right or say something some sort of way. And it's really funny. And then at one point, whenever he was he self-proclaimed himself like the champion, because the actual champion was like taking a tour of Mexico. So he was like, "Oh, I have the old title, like I'm the champion." And then whenever I announced them for like the unification thing, I was like, "The self-proclaimed champion." He like turned around and looked at me. Yeah, he like turned around and looked at me, and I was like, "You are, I don't know." But yeah, so there's been a little bit of that, and then like his manager at one point would always call me anything but my name. He called me Esther a lot. I think like anything other than Emily. So yeah, but I haven't really had a lot of like specific like character myself.
Do you plan to do so? Do you plan to come up with your own backstory and your own stuff, or are you just letting the natural history of yourself be what it is?
Yeah, just kind of let it, happen how it happened. Not unless they wanted me to have like a character for a certain purpose or anything like that, then that'd be different. But I personally don't have a character in mind.
Haven't decided to do so and have not been asked. Heard.
Yeah.
So when you get these phone calls like out of the blue, because it seems like that's kind of what happens. It's like, "Hey, are you available? Hey, are you available?" Which is, we talked to a guy just the other day, and his thing was, you have to be ready for the industry when the industry's ready for you. You can't just, "Oh, I got the call, now I've got to get ready." Is that sort of just the way it seems to be for you? You get these like out of the blues, and then you have a new network, and that just adds into your workload?
Yeah, I haven't, not so much here lately. I haven't had a whole lot of like those out of the blue type of things. Just because I think I've kind of got like the couple of companies I work with regularly. But I'm always down to, have it happen. And, if I'm if I get the call, if I'm available, I'm more than happy to come help out at the show and,
What does your schedule look like? Like what's a normal booking month for you?
I usually have reality wrestling every month, the second Saturday of the month, and then they just recently started doing a second show, like more of a like student show, but like student show plus, because they are like selling tickets. They do have sell tickets to it, and it's more of the like new students, and then some of the roster guys too. It's called Breakout, and they've just started doing that, and that's been really fun.
We've seen some companies, yeah. Those shows are sick.
Yep.
Yeah, and then they have and they'll have like students from other cities come, and so I usually have that. So I have reality wrestling like twice a month, and then either I'll have All Fury Pro or OTOB. They run every once in a while, or Lone Star in Waco. They run every month or every other month, because they ran in October, and then they ran in February, and then they're running again this month. so it's kind of a like every month or every other month or so. But yeah, I usually have about 3 or 4 a month.
That's not bad. Hey, working all the time is good. Having at least a show to fall on every week is how you know you're getting the schedules in. Have you found that it's been hard at all to find those bookings, or is it just naturally been happening for you?
Some of it's kind of like naturally been happening. It is. I feel like it is a little hard, and I've talked to like some other people that do commentary and ring announcing as well. Because for in-ring talent, they have, there's 15, 20 or more, wrestlers on a show, but there's maybe 2 ring announcers and there's maybe 2 commentators. Like there's not near as many like spots per show, and typically, they have their person, they have their people that they go to all the time. So if you are trying to like get booked somewhere, like essentially, unless it's a new company, you're kind of taking someone's job, and don't really want to do that. Don't want to have someone be mad at you for anything like that.
Exactly.
So it's a little difficult to get out there, and also like wrestlers, they should be there for the whole show, obviously, but like if they have another booking, they can take 2 bookings in a day.
Yeah, we've talked to plenty of people doing that.
Or even, honestly, I've seen them take 2 or 3, like, here in Houston, just because it's a big city, and there's so many promotions here in Houston, running in different places, and it's just such a big city. But like, if I'm booked in one spot, I can't have more than 1 booking, a day, unless one's in the morning and one's at night, and they don't really run during the daytime.
So I asked that to lead into this. When you ask somebody who's your favorite wrestler, the list could be very long. But rarely does their Mount Rushmore of commentary talent and mic workers get longer than 2 or 3. At the top of your mic worker Rushmore, who do you see as the best worker on that mic ever?
Like, you mean like announcer? Like ring
announcer? Ring announcer, commentary. The guys that work the mic. The guys and gals that live with the stick in their hand.
Gotcha. So Lillian Garcia for sure. Like I whenever I originally started, I was like, I want to be Lillian Garcia. Now I feel like I want to be Samantha Irvin. But
Samantha Irvin has
definitely
upped the game as far as ring
announcing is concerned. She's changed the way wrestling works.
Freaking good. And you see her facial. As I scroll through social, that's all I look at is wrestling stuff, because that's what consumes me when I'm not at work. And I see the videos that come out with her expressions, and she has upped the game. Like, I thought that Lillian was the best, right? Like, as far as ring announcer is concerned, until I hear Samantha Irvin, and Irvine, excuse me. And sorry, didn't mean to step on you, but I had to throw her some props, because wow.
Oh, I love Samantha Irvin. I would definitely put Samantha Irvin on that Mount Rushmore as well. I mean, hasn't been doing it a long time, but I mean, she's amazing.
Sometimes it doesn't matter how long you've been in the industry; it's the impact that you make, and that's that like we talked about earlier. Right. Well, we talked about earlier, the support characters don't always get the glory and the flowers. You don't see appreciation posts for commentators or ring announcers a lot, but their importance to the industry is unfathomable, and most fans will never really know how much work they put in behind the scenes. Have you been able to, like we said earlier, a lot of the people that work with a microphone, they generally put on another hat as well. Have you had the opportunity to do other office more work, or get into the writing rooms or anything like that?
I've been in those rooms, not so much as a writer, or like being asked for my opinion so much. More so whenever for RWR, I did get asked a little bit more about like, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Like Roxanne Perez, right now she's turning heel. And at one point, someone wanted to do that here in Houston, and they're like, "What do you think about if she was a heel?" And I was like, "I don't know what you would have her. How would you have that work? Because like everybody loves her so much. Like, you know,
sometimes that's the best turn.
Yeah, yeah. I love how they're doing it. I love what they're doing. How she's turning into bad Roxanne. I love it. But I haven't been like too much asked, but I've done a couple of interviews, and I've watched how the backstage interviews are produced, especially at Reality of Wrestling, because they've been starting to do a whole lot more backstage interviews and segments and things like that. And it's been really fun to like watch how all those get put together, how they get produced, and the chemistry.
It's interesting peering behind that part of the curtain, yeah. How all those things come together.
It's a perfect.
Yeah, and then the chemistry that builds between like a character and like the interviewer. You know, Carolina Teague is the interviewer for Reality Wrestling, and her and Danny Limelight, oh my goodness, they're so funny.
Oh, I saw a clip, I think it was last week, where he slayed her in like 5 seconds, and my jaw dropped.
It's constant every single week. It's so funny just to see how that happens. Yeah.
It's a perfect segue, because I was gonna ask you, like, for the guys and gals watching the show, give us a run through of a typical show day for you. Whether it be let's use Reality of Wrestling because it's a weekly gig. What's a show day look like for you as far as the being the ring announcer, and walk us through what a day is?
Well, I don't have to get there. Like they've started changing up like how their meetings and processes are. So I don't have to get there until 4:00. We have an announcer meeting. Typically they'll have like other meetings and stuff during the day, but we always have an announcer meeting at about 4:00 with me and Chris Russo as the announcers, and then they have 3 commentators and a couple of interviewers, and we all get together and go over like the backstage segments that they have going on, and just kind of like all the stories that are going to be that are being built and everything that's going on. And then they'll film. That typically lasts about 30 minutes or so, and then they'll start going over some of the backstage segments, and they'll start filming. And they're usually like filming in a couple different spots, because depending on what they're doing for the backstage segments and the interviews and stuff, different things like that. And then while they're doing that, I'm usually, because I don't usually do any of the backstage segments, I just I'll watch, or else I'll start trying to get the announcing information for anybody that we don't know, and asking the questions about other things that they have going with the segments and things like that. Like if Booker or Charmel are going to come out, like how do they want me to introduce them? Do they want me to introduce them? That kind of thing. While they're doing the filming of the segments, because like I said, Chris Russo, he's the other announcer. He's the lead announcer, I would say, but he also produces all the backstage segments. So he's got to essentially be in 2 places at one time, and he can't do that. So I usually will go and he asks me to produce him, is what he says, to get all of that information put together and compiled for him, so he's ready to go whenever at bell time.
Here's a question for you too, because you talk about doing the backstage or producing backstage. Do you have any interest in maybe learning more of that role as far as producing? It's almost.
Or what do you want to? Yeah, or what do you want to do with it? Yeah, where's your trajectory look like? What are you interested in getting into, and what path do you think you'd like to take?
I don't have anything specifically that I'm like, this is what I want to do. I would obviously love to work to ring announce for like one of the major companies. Either any one of them. It doesn't matter if it's WWE, AEW, TNA, you know, any of those. That would be amazing. But if any, whatever, you know, came of it, like if they wanted me to start doing something else, doing more backstage, I am not in a position to start like doing any sort of producing, but just kind of learning and picking up on things, so that I can start doing whatever it is that they would want for me to do. I'd be open to whatever happens.
Go ahead, John.
So, I know that in the indies, a lot of times communication can be an issue. As you have any stories so far in your couple of years here that have been just clusterfucks of communication breakdowns, where you had someone who showed up and you maybe weren't supposed to announce them and did, or vice versa, or anything like that? What's been the biggest takeaway from like some of those ridiculously horrible breakdowns?
Usually it just comes down to like, if it's something like I want to like not small necessarily, but like something that's like I start saying something that I shouldn't have said. That happened at Reality Wrestling one time. I was not supposed to say that it was Booker that was about to come out, and I like started to say it, and Chris Russo stopped me. But I kind of said like a couple of words already, and he even said he was like that he said it was his fault because he didn't produce me correctly, but I definitely feel like I don't necessarily think that. Like I think I just didn't hear him well enough or listen. But little thing, if it's something like I want to say small like that, I think it's just me not asking enough questions. But I've also seen things happen where the whole entire show, like leading up to the time of the show, was just a mess. There was one for RWR, Rise of the Vixens, I think two. It was Rise of the Vixens 2. We had some AEW talent come, and there was issues with people getting there, and like the weather was really bad, and like flights were delayed, and just it was a mess. So people got there, and they were supposed to go first. They were not ready to go first at the time of the show.
Card shuffles. Oh yeah.
So like right before the show started, we were like, I was the one that was going up there because the people that were running the show were also doing commentary for the most part. So, and one of them just kind of like put it on me to be like, hey, like get stuff situated. So I like was running up the stairs and I was like, all right, who's ready to go? And I was like, are you ready to go? And they're like, I mean, I don't have, I can, but my boots aren't on. And I'm like, ah. So I'm like, okay, what about you?
Bump the card. Let's go down the card. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the first match that went was originally supposed to be like the 7th match. Like it was supposed to be like one of the later ones, but they were like, I mean, we're ready, we could go. But yeah, and so I think stuff like that was just a mess altogether. The show was great. Watching back,
that's part of the.
Oh.
That's part of the thing about ring announcing, right? Because you're the one that has to announce who goes out to the ring. You're the first line. And if it has to fall to someone to make the show go, because in show business, the show must go on, right? The ring announcer is the guy with the mic. He's the one that gets to make the call. And when your name goes off, you had better be ready to go out the curtain and do your job. So if it all falls apart, it comes down to the ring announcer to put someone's ass out there in front of that spotlight. I don't think a lot of people get how crazy that can be. Yeah,
it was rough, and like it wound up, everybody kind of like started flowing good after a little while, but like it was so bad, and like it was just like it was everything from like flights, the weather, like it was.
Oh, if it can go wrong, it will.
Day. Yes, that was one of those. everything went wrong. But I don't think you could tell, like, during the show, like, some of my friends were there and they were like, I couldn't, like, some people that hadn't been at a whole lot of shows, they were like, it seemed fine. Then there were some people that had been to some shows and they're like, I mean, it seemed like something was kind of off, but, like, I mean, the show was good. Like, and I'm like, okay, great. As long as it was
if you can pull off a card switch at last minute and the fans still enjoy the show, then you've done your job well. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Sometimes your first match is somebody's late, your second match a boot broke, your third match there's a part missing. Oh, I guess fourth match is first. Let's ride, guys. Woo.
Yep.
Well, they say cards subject to change, right?
That is true.
It's gonna happen, but I like how John just put that. Like, it really does fall on the announcer in the ring, the first line of defense, as far as bringing somebody out to the ring. That was well said. That resonated.
Well, if you think about it, you know, the fan sitting in the stands, he has no idea what's happening behind the curtain, in the locker room, in the boiler room, in the bathroom. He has no clue. But he's going on what he hears from the announce crew and what the people are doing in the ring. He's going to think that that's exactly what's supposed to happen. You run the show and you get to tell the story. It really does fall on the announcers to make the show flow. And I think, like I said, as part of the Unsung Heroes Brigade, I think the announcers get the short end of the stick a lot.
Well, you really sit back and think about it when you go to a live show. Let's say a Monday Night Raw or whatever. You're hearing one voice all night long. You're not hearing the commentators. You're not hearing the.
Because they're in the can. They're not there.
You're hearing the ring announcer, and that voice and the way that it's carried, it's crucial. It's critical, and I think that, like, for you specifically, Emily, for you to be this young into the career and really getting the opportunity to learn the craft. Like, we were talking about bookings earlier, and
especially from who you get to sit with and learn from. Yeah,
when you were talking about bookings earlier, in my head, it's like, all right, if I'm an indie in the area and I know that you might be available, I'm going to know that because you're attached to one of the, you know, obviously Houston wrestling's booming. I heard that earlier, so I'm definitely going to be doing some searching. If you're in that area, obviously DM me some feds, because that's the indie wrestling's our passion. We'll go out and start watching stuff. But I would think that with your attachment with reality of wrestling, that it kind of gives you instant credibility. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not just with you specifically. That's with anyone that's employed or working or going through the training camp there, because of the man that it's attached to, right? Like, I feel like it might be not easier per se, but if I'm a promoter in the area, like, yeah, let me hit her up because she's got cred. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of where I'm going with it. And I think that it's kind of cool to sit back and see as a fan of professional wrestling, right? Like, now with you specifically, it's just kind of cool to see that there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of people out there, and where you're at right now versus where you're going to be in, say, the next 5 years, right? Like, that's how I look at the bigger picture. And I definitely see your career taking an uptick, and you have, like, this wide variety of a who's who of brains to pick. It's gotta be. I hate to say it like this. I'd love to walk a day in your shoes on a TV taping. You know what I mean? Like, it would just be one of those situations to where you could sit back and learn so much and not have to really say a word. All you have to do is listen. Takes me back to my days of wrestling, you know. I was wrestling Ricky Morton, and he just said, "Shut up and listen." Didn't say a word the whole match. I just listened. And we get back to the locker room, and the first thing he said to me was, that was your first lesson in professional wrestling. You just listen. Listen to me, listen to the crowd. Listen to me, listen to the crowd. I just think that would be so cool, and knowing where you're headed, like the vibe that I have is different. Knowing that where you could be heading it's tremendous right now. I say all that to say, like, I really do believe that there's a huge future here. You've got a really good persona when you're on camera. We've seen some of your work, and I'm sorry I rambled for a second. I do apologize for that. I just started going, and I didn't stop. I just think that there's so much happening here, and that your story is really beginning as far as in the industry. And from a guy was in it to see that yours is just starting, and how many different directions it could go is kind of fucking cool. Excuse my language. Sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words. I definitely I'm looking forward to whatever happens with this journey that I'm on. So,
as a fan for a long time, now that you're inside the industry and you're behind the curtain and you're seeing the inner workings, what do you think is a large opportunity for companies to really take this new era of what wrestling is becoming to that next level? Where do you see the biggest, maybe not even change, like what do you see as the opportunity for the indie scene the way it is right now to really capture that territory's glory again?
I definitely I feel like having companies like out here in Houston, like everybody, there's so many companies here in Houston, and a lot of them all work together. But like, I feel like having, they all work together like here in the city, but there's not a whole lot of like inner city like working together. I know there was a couple of companies, one's in Austin and one's based here, that did kind of like a war type of thing. I think there's one in Dallas that does like a series every year or a couple of years about it. Like it's a school, and then they did like a reality wrestling versus DFW or whatever the case. But I think that if they were able to, like, working with other companies, maybe not even just in the state, but like interstate, like with like reality wrestling has a partnership with Memphis, and they got some people from Georgia for the Rumble, like different stuff like that. Like I think that would be really cool to just have them work with other companies in different states. And I know it's a little harder to do here in Texas just because it's such a big state. You know, I mean, you can drive, it takes 2 hours to get out of Texas, and that's the shortest amount of time. You know, so I feel like that would be really cool, but I know that like in Texas it's a little harder to do.
It's funny.
No, I think that's the.
Go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I know
right, no,
exactly where you're headed.
I was about to say, you were talking about the relationships, right? That's another piece of the equation. Like, there's all kinds of relationships that are being built. You talked about Memphis, you talked about Georgia. Obviously, we have connections to the guys in Georgia. A couple of them that went down there that were so fucking stoked to just get the opportunity, right? Like, that's what it was all about. I'll mention Skrilla as an example. We talked to him literally the night he found out that he would be going down. And if I could explain to you how thrilled and just hard work. And when it comes to that perspective with you, like, you know, would you go out on a tour, since Reality of Wrestling has ties to Memphis and Deep South and Georgia and several other feds that I'm pretty sure I'm not even aware of? You know, if they were to come to you and say, hey, we want you to go run this loop in Memphis and then shoot over here to this and shoot over here, you'll be back in a week. You know, is that something that you would jump all over?
Yeah, I would. That's one of the things that I haven't done is do something out of state. That's one of the things I want to do. I just haven't had the opportunity to do it. I've gotten close a couple of times. I've talked to a couple of companies, but it's never like matched up date wise or whatever. But that's one thing that I want to do is I want to get out of state at least once, at least do something out of state. I haven't had
for a show.
Yeah, just even just one. You know, I just like that's something that I want to do. I haven't had a chance to do yet. I would say that's probably one of the few things that I'm like, that's something I want to do.
Well, we'll talk. One thing about our journey through independent wrestling is the connections that we make and the people that we talk to. Word of mouth travels, right? Like, we'll talk. I've been in talks with a couple of promoters over here on our side. We're over in Florida, Georgia. Yeah, I think we can probably make that happen in some form or fashion, and get you in touch with people to at least try to make that happen and make that a reality. That should not be a problem. I think that would be great. Because to me, obviously, more exposure in a local market is better for you, and it's better for your resume, and you start building that foundation for what is going to be, could be and will be, your possible future in the industry. It's great. Guys and gals, promoters, I know some of you are watching. You see her tag on the screen. I'm gonna need for you to do the thing, and then if you land that opportunity, right, and you knock it out of the park. What would you foresee if you had to manifest it? What would you see next? Like your first step. Let's say you get that gig. What's your next manifestation of what you want to see?
Other than like being out of state, the only other thing that I would want to see is like working with either a promoter that has a wrestler that has a promotion, excuse me. Because I know there's a bunch here in Texas. I know that
there's a bunch all over.
Yeah, I can think of 3 off the top of my head here in Texas. I know that there's more, in Florida or wherever.
Gangrel's got one down in CCW. We've got there's a lot. Yeah.
Would be that, or then like working for a major company somehow. AEW, Ring of Honor. TNA, I know they got Jade Chung. She's been killing it lately. Or WWE, any of the major companies. That would be the only other thing that I would want.
Well, and you brought up earlier too that one of the other realities of being a support character on a show like this and being in part of the industry is, like you said earlier, a show has 20, 30, 40 plus roster members for a show. There's only 2 commentators and a ring announcer and this one other guy. Like, there's only so many spots. So you are literally competing to get booked with the smallest niche market in the least appreciated part of the industry, like, possible. So the chances of getting the opportunities that you've had are astronomical. Let alone the fact that you've been able to not only snatch them, but ride that shit to the level that you have is impressive. And it's definitely something that if you get other opportunities to move forward, the same perseverance to latch on and come back day 2, absolutely run with that. And I think that that's probably the thing that's kept you moving forward in your journey here, is that you did have the opportunity. And we've talked a lot about, when wrestlers and talent come to their first training camp, it's going back that second day and that third day, that fourth day, when you're beat up and you're hurt and you're tired, that differentiates you from the group that doesn't make it to the end and the group that does. And I think that that's a large part of what you've got going on. And, for someone trying to get into the industry and not be a worker, what do you think is the best piece of advice that you could give someone to get into such a small slice of what the industry has to offer?
I would say if there's a company, like if there's a training school, if there's a school like anywhere nearby where you are, or if there's a school that teaches, what it is that you're wanting to do. If you're there's, I know a lot of companies, like they say, like they can train you to be a ring announcer, they can train you to do anything. And I would say try and like find one of those schools that like is doing those classes or is willing to like work with you, so that you can, if you go and say, hey, like I don't want to take a bump, but if I can like learn how to be a manager, or if I can learn how to be a ring announcer, a referee, or learning camera work. Like a good cameraman is extremely hard to find. Because they have to be watching like what's on the camera, but they have to be watching everything else that's happening too. Because if Booker T gets hit and he like goes off to the side, if you don't see his face, I can guarantee you that is $1 million shot right there. Like his
you
face,
missed it.
Yeah, you don't see it. Mason D. Madden, he posted a video on Twitter after the show that we had after the Rumble, whenever he got eliminated, and his face was so funny, and I don't think it got on camera, which is why like they took ringside. We took that video. It was so funny. So like anybody that they can teach you to do camera work or ring announcer or anything like that, that's what I would say, to go to a school and find someone that can show you the ropes and help you do things like that, because there's a spot for everybody.
There is.
There absolutely is.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. And I feel like your journey is really just beginning. I think that just based on talking to you, I think that you've got some hard work pays off, right? And in a niche market with it's almost I feel where you're coming from earlier. You're talking about it's almost like you're taking someone else's job. It's a competitive world. And it sucks, but the cream will always rise to the top. And the next, let's say that we've already talked about your next 5 years. You definitely want to see yourself in a major promotion down the line. In the next 10 years from now, where would you see yourself? Where do you want to see yourself? Actually, you know what? Scratch that. Let me backtrack. Let's not go there, because I remembered something I wanted to ask you. My ADD kicked in. Going back to here and now, and I'm going to leave that in just so everybody knows I'm human and I make mistakes. It happens. Your work thus far within the Texas market. Give me some of not moments that we've seen, but on a house show, on an indie show. Give me some people that you've really nailed your announcements on, and they've come up to you and said, that was fucking awesome. Or, maybe not in that term.
One of it pretty much he says it like that. He's retired now, but T. Ray Watford, he's down here in Texas. He's been doing it for a long time. He's one of the guys that I announced that he's always told me from the beginning. He's like, your voice needs to be on TV. That needs to be on a major, that needs to be in a major company. And he tells me every time he was how I announced him. It always it fires him up. It hypes him up, which is a great compliment. I love to hear. I love announcing him too, just because I love announcing things that are something different. Everybody down here is announced from Houston or something like that. But Josiah John, I announced he told me recently, he said it as a joke, but I still do it. And I even asked Chris Russo if I should say it that way, and he said, yeah, because it's different. He told me to announce him from Space City and not from Houston. And I've always done that, not knowing that he said that as a joke. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to keep doing it, though, because it's different. And, like, your nickname's the Rocket. It makes sense, you know? And and he's like, all right, if no one stops you, like, keep saying it. And I was like, I am. So it's like, that's just, so, like, something like that. And then T-Ray, he gets announced from Wish a Motherfucker Would. It's so funny just because it's so
I think that
different.
might be the best hailing from place I've ever heard.
Of it. And on commentary, like, having everybody be like, well, where is that even at? Like, and like, name, like, they...
You can fuck around and find out.
That's what I said. That's what I said one time. Whenever I did commentary one time, I was like, he was at the corner of fuck around and find out. I don't. So like just funny stuff like that. But yeah, T-Ray is one of the people that I always love announcing. I love seeing him at shows. He's retired now, but he still pops up from time to time. He came to the All
ideas.
He came to the All Fury Pro show because he was supposed to be there, but then he retired. But he did come, and he gave his spot to one of his little proteges. So there's a big build up for that too, to their show that they have on April 24th. Yeah, 24th. But yeah, T-Ray's one of my favorite people to announce, just to being around him. He's so nice, and he always put my name into places and say, oh, like you should book her, and got me a couple of bookings, a couple of places.
It's funny.
That's awesome.
And you know, Josiah. I think I was calling him Josiah Jean, and mispronounced his last name. A while back. This is where I say, like, sorry guys, my dog's in the background. This is why I say independent wrestling it brings people, well, wrestling in general brings people together, but independent wrestling, it's like 6 degrees of separation. It truly is, because when I say that is how it came across you. When I pulled up some reality of wrestling, I've known that it was out there. But John and I just started really digging into the indies 8 or 9 months ago, and seeing what was there, seeing what's out there, and like knowing it and watching it are two different things. And as a wrestling fan, and if I'm not saying when I was a performer that I was all that in a bag of chips. I wasn't. I was a small time indie guy that worked the state. That was it. We saw Josiah, or I saw Josiah. Like, that was one of the first matches. Let me just pull up some reality and on the internet, and that was one of the first matches I saw. And I believe you were announcing. If you weren't announcing that match, it was his match that either you were announcing it, or it took me to another match that you were announcing. And then I started really watching it a little bit more. And it was through the connection, like with Josiah. I did a spotlight video on him, and I hit him up, and I was just like, hey man, are you okay if I do this? I don't want to do it if you don't want me to. This is what it looks like, et cetera, et cetera. It's 6 degrees. Without Josiah, without seeing him, I might not have came across seeing you. And here we are today discussing what could be, a very promising career inside the profession. It's just so weird to me and interesting how wrestling has a way of just bringing people together.
Well, and wrestling is such a small world too. There's absolutely, like, you always find out how you're connected to somebody else through a person that you know at this show or that show, or through this company or through that guy. Like, we got hooked up with Naja because of Skrilla. We got hooked up with this guy because, like, it's a weird web of things around wrestling. And I don't know that I've ever found another industry, and I've worked in a bunch of different industries that functions like wrestling does. It's a very unique thing behind the curtain, and it blows my mind how you run into people and how you make connections like that.
Yeah, it's always, I love how, like, meeting people that have, like, done other things, and, like, seeing, and even people that I hadn't met before, and they were like that I've seen other places, or like even seen, you know, in the WWE. Like it's just, I love that, like it is a very small world. Like it feels like a really big world, but it is also a very small world.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to give us anybody in the Houston market, we're not going to limit just to reality of wrestling. If you were to drop some names on us, like you should watch these performers, who would they be? And not to put you on the spot, and I will go ahead and preface this now to anybody who is associated with Miss Taylor. She is being put on the spot with this question. If she omits your name, it is not because she doesn't want you to watch. She will send me that information at a later time, and we will make that happen. Or you can just hit me up right there. So we save that so you don't get any hate tweets, or you don't get any hate. Hey, you didn't mention me. But go ahead. If you had to pick out, like, maybe 5 that come to mind.
I first of all, everybody knows that I love them. Like if I love you, you know I love you. You know. I would definitely say. I would say Josiah for sure. Josiah John. Mia Friday.
Okay.
She's down here. She's all over Texas and everything. But she's another one. She's real young too. She's 18. She's great. She is definitely someone that I would say you need to keep an eye on. Kane Carter is really great also. Few more. I would say a really great commentator also. I'm going to name 2 commentators.
Mm-hmm.
Kirby from Reality of Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
He's amazing. And then Brittany, who's also in Reality of Wrestling, but she's done a bunch of other stuff. She's been a promoter in Louisiana, like one of the only female promoters. But those are all some people that are amazing that should keep an eye on for sure.
So here's why I asked you that question. So what you just did here, and you didn't know, you don't have any idea. So how we do things is with people who do come on our show, like, we ask you that question, and I go out and I'll start watching matches. Well, here's the beautiful thing about professional wrestling. While you're watching one person that has been suggested to you, you don't know who else you're going to see in that same...
Mm-hmm.
You're also watching his opponent or his opponents, or... Yep.
Exactly. And we pull things at random, right? Like Josiah, I've seen a lot from him. We did a 2-hour show on him, and it was phenomenal. That guy, I was going to call him Kid, but I'm not trying to be disrespectful by any means. But that guy he has got star written all over him. I talked to him through DM a couple of times, and I told him, bro, I see it, and I know everybody sees it. This is you've got something. It's there. He captivates an audience as soon as he walks out through the curtain. I have never seen someone that young walk out in front of a crowd and have the reaction that he gets from them, and he hasn't done anything but walk 4 steps. It's a genuine connection that he has. It's just so real. It's unreal. But ultimately, I'm going to go back to my point. You open the door for us to find 4 or 5 matches from these different people, including commentators. We'll find stuff on it, and who knows who they're commentating. So 5 people just probably turned us on to 30. Ultimately, you know what I mean? Like that's why I do that. I don't want you to think I was just blindsiding you or anything like that, but. That's what independent wrestling is, and you find some of the best untapped talent just by discovery and given names that we may not be familiar with, that we will become familiar with. It's great, and I appreciate you dropping some answers on us, and hopefully nobody comes at you sideways. You didn't mention me.
I don't think they will, because I mean, there's so many more people, and they all know I love them. I tell them all the time. There was someone that I didn't mention. I'll go ahead and mention them. Fly Death, Zach and Warren. They are. I met someone who goes where Warren works a lot, and I was like, oh, my friend Warren works there, and they were like, oh yeah, he's a real nice guy. And I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if he knows that Warren is one of the best tag team wrestlers in the state of Texas, because I don't know, what they talk about. But yeah, Zach and Warren, they are amazing, down in reality wrestling and all over everywhere. But yeah, so no, they know people like that. I even told Warren, I was like, I wonder. I thought about it if he knows that you're such a good wrestler, So yeah, people know they know. I tell them all the time that the ones that I love, they know I love them. But yeah, I think there might be a couple people that'll jokingly be like, oh, you didn't say my name, but they know how I feel about them. So.
You just let them know to get good. Maybe they'll be on the next one.
Oh, shots fired. Send your hate tweets to @FiresideCable. John, you got anything else for Emily? I've really enjoyed the time that we've had this evening. This has been fun for me. But John, you got anything?
Well, I mean, you know me. I could keep asking questions for hours and hours. I think really the last thing that I really want to know about is what's your favorite part about the show? When you get to the arena, all the way from the time you get to the parking lot to the time you go home at night, what part of the show is the thing that you look forward to the most?
I think my favorite thing is after the show, after everything has happened, and just kind of talking to everybody and asking them how they felt their match went, and even just talking to a couple of the fans, what did they like, what they didn't like, especially if it's a fan that's there for the first time or something, the ones that don't come a lot, what exactly what stuck out in their mind, what was something that they saw that they liked, what they didn't like, and then how everybody felt everything went with the show throughout the day. So yeah, I would say after the show and catching up with everybody, because I'm not in the back during the shows. I don't. Right. Once they go back through that curtain, if they think they did terrible, or if they think they did great, or however they feel, I have no idea.
But you saw it from a different perspective from that, yeah. And that's so amazing, because I think for me too. I think when I was working table work, I think that was my favorite part too. And a lot of people don't realize that the guys that go back into the locker room, they can't just come back out. They're stuck back there. They're either leaving the building or they're in the back and they're just stuck in the locker room. But commentary and table workers, we're out there in the crowd all the time, and we get to interact with the fans way more than the talent does. And being in that position is very unique. You don't know what happened in production room or in the locker room or in the gorilla spot or in the hallway. You don't know any of the things that happened from that perspective. But you get to see the show the same way the fans do, because you're out at ringside the whole time. And you have an interesting perspective to go back to the bookers and the talent. And I guarantee you've had a night where a guy was really riding himself about how bad he thought his match was, but you saw the fans after he walked back through the curtain, and that match resonated well with the fan. And you get to make that report to that guy and change his perspective on it. And it's a different thing that the people out at ringside get to watch all night than the thing that just a wrestler gets to come out for his 10, 20, 30 minutes, whatever. It's a whole different thing. And I'm glad that is your favorite part.
Yeah, I like it. I like being able to tell them that. And I was going to say something else. I forgot what I was going to say. But I like that I'm able to see matches that like I sat and watched two people put together a part of their match, you know, or like discuss about like how to like
You
go
get to
from
see
this
the finished
spot.
product.
Yeah. Yeah, I like watched that a couple of times. Here's the last couple of shows that I've been at, like just hanging around somebody and I was watching it and like seeing how they put it together or like where they were going to put that spot at, whether like they were just talking about the very beginning or whatever. I like seeing like the finished product of that, like how they were going through and how they were like talking about different ways to start something or to get into something. So that's really cool too.
I bet you don't even realize that you're in one of the very few positions that get to see that work that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody really gets that. The fans at home do not ever see the planning process or the training process, and here you are watching it all come together and then going out there and watching the product be finished. It's a very unique place.
Yeah. And like with the reality wrestling breakout shows that they've been doing, that's really cool too, just to see like, because a lot of them are like, some of them are students and some of them are like roster talent. Like Josiah is one of the ones that like I announced his first ever match, you know.
You told me.
And
that.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to watch. To like announce him whenever he wins some sort of title, whenever that may be. I don't know when it's going to happen. I assume it's probably going to be sooner rather than later. But I'm so excited to like see that, to just see that full culmination of everything.
I want to talk about Breakout for a minute because, again, John and I have been watching a lot of independent wrestling. We have a show on Monday nights over on our Twitch channel, Inside the Indies. We literally pick an indie show that we've never seen before and throw it on our live stream when we watch it. We've come across several student shows, and they have not disappointed.
They're amazing.
They have not disappointed. You can tell that they're still learning, but knowing that it's a student show, like it's interesting. I did not know. Wait a minute. No, I did not know that they were doing that in Reality of Wrestling. I thought I saw an advertisement.
We watched one from Riot City, and we watched another one from somewhere here in the States, but we have not seen Realities. I will definitely be going to find one.
I know at the moment they're not really. I don't think they're really airing it. They're like filming it more for like them to just like have content for like their training and stuff like that.
You let them know that those go like fire on YouTube. They are missing a marketing opportunity to show off talent at an early space.
I will let them know because they definitely because they film it for this. I know they film it for the students, but like that's also like they're filming it for them and also for like because like they're
there's no better promotion for a kid like who hasn't had a ring spot yet than those. Yeah, they're amazing.
But yeah, they're teaching everybody. Like everybody's kind of learning. Like they have like there you have like two commentators that like they're both commentators. They've both like been around doing it for a while, but they're not but they've never commentated together. They commentated together once. And I think they're going to be the normal commentators for it. So just kind of like getting their, how they work together and things like that. So yeah,
get that chemistry down.
I definitely think that they might start airing them a little bit. I know they mentioned maybe doing it, but they haven't done them as of yet. But I know that Reality Wrestling has like a subscription thing with like their YouTube channel. Like maybe they could throw it on there. I'll put that in his ear. But
you just let them know that there is a market for it sure.
I bet you that's what he's doing. I bet you he's stacking some content to drop it behind the paywall. Smart man.
Yeah,
smart man.
Very smart. And that's why the company is successful, right there.
One of the many, right there. Absolutely. Man. John, I could sit here and I could talk for another 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Is there anything pressing that you want to ask?
I mean, realistically, I want to know that once you get your out of town date settled and you let us know, we do an interview with you after the fact so we can get your fresh off the I did an interstate show glow and find out how it worked out for you.
I could do that. I would do that. I would love to come and tell y'all how it went.
That would be fun.
We would love to have you back to talk about it because that would be very interesting to have you get another check on your bucket list and then come talk to us about it.
For sure.
Well, I've had a blast, Emily. I don't want to take up too much more of the time. I cannot thank you enough for giving us your time to do the show and get your perspective and talk about your journey thus far. And you're starting, and the future is promising. I cannot wait to continue to follow your journey through your reality of wrestling and your other federations that you're doing some work with. I'm going to look those guys up too and see if they've got YouTube pages and see who's there. That's a piece of why we do this. It's a much bigger picture to try and promote those feds that, reality of wrestling is a top-notch independent federation. But these other guys that we haven't really heard of, that's the win. Is because it'll open that door up, and who knows? We've done streams on. We did a stream on Michael Oku, overseas from RevPro. He popped in on our stream. Like, you never know what will happen just by somebody saying, "Hey, we're watching you." You know what I mean? Like, this is professional wrestling's huge, and I cannot thank you enough. Again, this was a very big episode for me because it's breaking ground on getting out there and trying to get other female performers, whether you're in front of the camera or you're not. Like, we want to talk to you too. We want to hear your story. Like, there's more talented women. I'm gonna get heat for this, but there are more talented women in the industry than there are men right now, and there's a lot of talented men. So what does that tell you about the women's wrestling and all over the world? It's just fucking phenomenal. Again, sorry, long-winded, but I appreciate your time. John, you want to say your goodbye to Miss Emily, and then we'll turn it over to you to say anything you want to say on the way out, Miss Taylor.
Absolutely. Again, like he said, we appreciate your time spending it with us. We know that you have, your own life and your own stuff to do, and we do appreciate you taking some time out to talk to us. We love to pick at the brains inside the industry and just kind of see how different people end up inside the ropes. Because it's, like he said, the industry really does bring together so many different kinds of people. And you never really know who you're going to meet or where. And it's interesting to hear your stories because, like you said, there's a lot of different people that you meet. And it's funny how everything is so small and so big at the same time. And we find ourselves in this incredible space with all of these very talented people. And sometimes we just have to look around ourselves and be like, wow, look at what I'm doing right now. And it's refreshing to see a newer generation of people coming up doing that right now, and getting an opportunity to talk with you is very appreciated.
Thank you. Thank y'all for having me. I had a blast. I haven't done a bunch of interviews here. Like, I'll do a couple and then I won't do any for a while. So I enjoyed having me on and getting to talk about my journey and everybody and all the cool things I do and the people I know and just everything that's going on down here in Houston. 'Cause it's booming, like you mentioned. So yeah.
We're just saying, professional wrestling brings everybody together. That's the slogan. That should be on a T-shirt somewhere. I just made somebody some money. Should have been mine. John, take us home, man. Let's get out of here.
Well, guys and gals, we love sharing our passion for the industry with each and every one of you. If you guys have not done so, go down below, drop those savage elbows right there on that ring bell so you never miss a beat of what we got going on behind the curtain here. We've always got new information, new shows, new stuff to check out all the time here on the channel, either here on Twitch or on YouTube. You can get early drops at our Discord. Follow all the links below. Get with all of Emily's links down below too, because we've got all sorts of companies and their merch sites and their everything going right down below here. So check out all of the little blue letters down below. We love each and every one of your faces, and we'll see you again next time.